If the New Orleans Saints don't win this week 1 game, they might not win at all in September.
And if the Arizona Cardinals don't win this game in New Orleans, we're going to be having weird conversations completely irrationally week 1 to kick off the season.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome in. We are back week 1 of the NFL season. Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Saints crossover Thursday here to break down the New Orleans Saints hosting the Arizona Cardinals. I am Ross Jackson, joined here along with the one, the only, the great Alex Clancy from over at Locked On Cardinals. We're going to be taking a look at a bunch of different things, matchups that you need to pay attention to, why Marvin Harrison Jr. might be the most important player on the field on Sunday, why I actually think that might be Trey McBride, and of course, why this might actually be one of the most important games for both of these teams to kick off the season here in week 1. Crossover Thursday brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. We appreciate you very much making us your first listen and being it every day or here on the show, which is a proud part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Alex, I think we both agree that even early on in this season, this kind of feels like a must win for both teams. Is that sort of the way you're looking at it from the biggest story side for the Cardinals?
I mean, I think divined completely differently. These are two teams that are on different trajectories currently. The must win for the Cardinals, I think, every game in the NFL is a must win. I think that's a pseudo cliche when used at face value, but when defined differently, like the Cardinals got to win because they're supposed to win. And even though week 1's murky and weird and really the first preseason game for everybody, even though it actually counts, if they don't win, irrationality will just infuse the valley. So, yeah, they should win, and that's why it's more a must-win. But if they lose on Sunday, even though they're heavy favorites, it's not the end-all, be-all. But, yeah, still kind of a must-win to begin with.
Yeah, I think this is a little bit of a must-win for New Orleans, too, as much as a week 1 must-win can be. Obviously, we're using that phrase because it's the popular vernacular, but really just like this is an important game for both of these teams. The Saints, after this game, Alex, take on the San Francisco 49ers, who honestly I'm not super buying into, but I think they're probably a better team than maybe we realized early on in the season. You might disagree with that, the NFC West over there. But then they also travel to Seattle. Then they travel to Buffalo, and that's their September road trips, September kind of lineup. If the Saints don't win this game, they might not win at all in September. And I wonder what the conversations are going to look like here in New Orleans as compared to the Valley.
So, yeah, I mean, and listen, I'm intrigued to see Spencer Rattler. Like, I know we're going to get deep into this, but like biggest Arizona story guy ushering in new things like Kellen Moore, Spencer Rattler. Sometimes you can catch lightning in a bottle with a brand new thing. The Cardinals have a brand new defense. They're going on the road in a hostile environment. Like Cam Jordan's still there. Dudes are still there. The Saints have won a lot more games than the Cardinals have, meaningful ones in recent memory. And I just hope the Cardinals don't get caught in they should win. So they're going to kind of, just slowly go in there, expect to win the Big Easy.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, like nothing will come easy in the Big Easy. I will tell you that. Like this is a team that is going to be scrappy, that's going to go out there, that's going to fight. It's all new everything for the New Orleans Saints. New head coach, new offense, new defense, new coordinators at all 3 spots, new quarterback, new they're rolling out new jerseys, Alex. They painted the gold, they painted the end zones gold for the first time since they won a Super Bowl in Miami. Like they're pulling out all the stops to let you know that this is no ordinary game for the New Orleans Saints. And I think that's cool. I think that's exciting. Like embrace the new era and see if you can start it out on the right foot. Something that you talked about, though, that I have heard Kellen Moore say over and over and over again for the last week. He talks about catching lightning in a bottle, right? He has spoken over and over again about how, look, we're going to show a lot of things that no one's ever seen. Arizona's going to show a lot of things that no one's ever seen from them. And so he's always kind of talking about the unscouted looks, the element of surprise. I think Kellen Moore might be cooking up a little something in terms of the unscouted looks and the element of surprise. And I'm sure the Cardinals are too.
Do they still have 41 on their roster? Like, what's the surprise going to be? Alvin Kamara getting 79 touches? That's going to be the surprise? Ooh, he may wear his dreads a different way. He may wear his hair a different way. It's going to be the same thing. It's going to be Alvin Kamara. It's going to be Chris Olave. For me, Ross, the Cardinals have to control what they can control. Kellen Moore has a winning record, coordinator to coordinator, against Jonathan Gannon, 1-3. irrespective of where they are now, they have some history. So you have that. Jonathan Gannon mentioned that to the media yesterday. For the Cardinals, they need to be the aggressor. That's the biggest thing for me. They haven't been on offense, Ross. Like, you mentioned Trey McBride. I mentioned Marv. Like, there's still a lot of question marks going into this season with the offense, with them running it back. And this is a great test for them to come in. There's a new defensive coordinator in town in Nola who's had some success from the coordinator spot, not necessarily from the head coach spot. And this is a great first test for a team that is really unproven when all the expectations are at their doorstep like they are this season. So I'm excited about this match for that specifically.
Yeah, me too. Hey, I love that you brought up the new defensive coordinator here in New Orleans. I want to see if you knew this and what you think about it. Brandon Staley, the new defensive coordinator here in New Orleans, for folks that don't know, used to be the head coach of Los Angeles Chargers. Before that, back in 2020, he was the defensive coordinator for the number one defense in the league with Los Angeles Rams. Context, he had Jalen Ramsey and he had Aaron Donald, the best defensive player we've ever seen, right? Or that I've ever seen live, right? I didn't get a chance to see LT. And so, but here's the thing. Kyler Murray is one of the few quarterbacks that has played against Brandon Staley multiple times and has never won a game against Brandon Staley's defense. Now, I'm not going to overblow that, but it is a curious thing, and I am interested to know maybe what you think about that.
Can I plead the cliff on that? Can I plead the cliff?
No, but 100%. Maybe it was more Cliff Kingsbury losing to him than it was Kyler Murray, right?
Yeah. Why did I never have played the cliff when he was the head coach? What are we doing here? You bring out the best in me, Ross Jackson. You know what? I think that Kyler Murray's kind of enigmatic. Like, it doesn't really matter. There's not a lot of rhyme or reason to when he's good and when he's not. He ran roughshod of Jim Harbaugh's defense last year. Brandon Staley was an atrocious head coach who cost his team a playoff berth because he wouldn't just let Derek Carr run out the clock. That is ineptitude at the highest level. So that's bled over with Sean McVay. Like, there's something special with the Rams. I'm not giving Brandon Staley, the guy who still should be carded to buy, something an 18-year-old would buy. But I don't think that there's a direct correlative. I think it's situation for both of them more than production from Kyler Murray.
So you're not worried about Brandon Staley's defense at all. That doesn't bother you whatsoever. Like knowing
didn't say that.
Okay, that's why I was asking, because I was like, okay, well that's like a little bit of a take to have, because like Brandon Staley's defenses have been really good. It's just that it has been the game management stuff that was never good for him.
Yeah, the actual head coaching stuff that he wasn't great at. But yeah, when he's had the opportunity just to run one side of the ball, he's been good. Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. After this entire offseason, you and I have had many conversations, most of them positive about this team. The offense terrifies me still. It doesn't matter who's on the other side. Brandon Staley being the first DC that they see isn't ideal. Like, people are thinking they're going to run over this team. I think the Cardinals will probably win this. We'll get to it later, but like, eggshells. I used to always say about this organization, I continue to still. The Arizona Cardinals are an elephant on top of a sheet of ice, and we have no idea how thin the ice is. That's it. You have no idea how good you have it or not, because any play, any series, any down, any game, things can shift dramatically. You expect that to subside this year, but seeing Brandon Staley, is Cam Jordan still playing football? I mean, there's a lot of dudes on the other side of the field that terrify me, including, with Brandon Staley calling the shots. I just don't think Kyler Murray's inability to beat Brandon Staley has a direct correlative to their win-loss on Sunday.
Sure, that makes perfect sense. Well, I'll tell you one guy that might have a direct correlation to winning and losing, and that is wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. He's going to be a big focus when we break down our matchups here as we continue on with our crossover Thursday, Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Saints. Today's Crossover Thursday is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash streaks, saving every time that you order. These players delivered on what matters the most. Let's break it down. I think we got to start with the quarterbacks here. Both Spencer Rattler and Kyler Murray bringing a lot of excitement to both of these teams as they get ready for their week one matchup. These players are delivering just like DoorDash delivers on Saturdays. And with DoorDash streaks, you save every Saturday that you order. Stack it all up throughout the season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday and keep the streak alive all the way to fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply in promo period through November 18th. All right, everybody, continuing on with this crossover Thursday, Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Saints breaking down this week 1 matchup. And I'll tell you, Alex, one of the guys that I am most concerned about for the New Orleans Saints, who saw a lot of turnover in their cornerback room in particular, is Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's start there. Where does he rank for you amongst key matchups in this team? Or in this game? What am I?
Probably, it's interesting. Third. So I think we're going to have a differing of opinion there. Like the number one most important player on this offense outside of Kyler Murray is James Conner. Next is Trey McBride. 100%. And then next is Marvin Harrison Jr. So it depends on what defensive scheme. I would assume that they're not going to put any sort of bracket coverage on him unless they absolutely need to. Trey McBride's going to be the focal point. You can obviously lend more to that. But Marv is third until he proves otherwise. He had a solid, like how I said is he had the best version of a boring, bad rookie year that you could have. Right. 900 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. Like he had more receiving yards than his dad. He had tied rookie touchdown numbers that Larry Fitzgerald had. So I think the expectations were astronomical. He's put on a bunch of weight. He and Kyler Murray are in lockstep. Kyler said it's night and day compared to last year. So while, yes, it's important, Trey McBride is going to run this ship. We're in 85 in red. And then James Conner in a run first offense is going to be, the belle of the ball as pertaining to eyes early on.
The belle of the ball, if anybody else is an Office fan. I got to go with you on that. I am 100% on the trail of Trey McBride being the most important guy, but I am really interested in how the Saints, who don't have Marshawn Lattimore anymore, who don't have Paulson Adebo anymore, can they lock down the perimeter with a second-year corner in Kool-Aid McKinstry, who has looked great throughout training camp, didn't look so fantastic against the Denver Broncos during his early reps in the preseason game, the final preseason game. And then you got a veteran in Isaac Yiadom who looked great here in New Orleans in 2023, but obviously this is a different system, although he does have some connections with Brandon Staley going back. And so it'll be interesting to see where all that goes. For me, looking at the Saints offense going up against the Cardinals defense, I think the biggest thing is going to be, you mentioned that kind of all knew everything over on the defensive side for the Cardinals. It's that pass rush, man. It's that pass rush and the Saints offensive line. And I can't tell which one it is for me that's more of a concern, the offensive line or the pass rush. But in any case, if you have Spencer Rattler, who is coming out to be a first-time week 1 starter, to be the 7th start of his career, but winless last year, all those other things, and now he finally has a full complement of weapons around him. If that offensive line doesn't hold up, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. It doesn't matter who the running back is. It doesn't matter the weapons that he has around him. And the Saints offensive line has done some things that give you a little bit of confidence, but a lot of things that take away from that confidence too. And so I'm very intrigued to see how they stand up to this new look pass rush of Arizona's.
And with Kellen Moore scheming for Spencer Rattler, like when he was with the Chargers, they always had offensive line injuries. Always. You had Zion Johnson, you had Rashawn Slater. They've had a stronger offensive line, but is his scheme going to be able to move the pocket to allow Spencer to kind of use his legs a little bit, being throwing off the run? Like, is that kind of the game plan? If the interior pressure becomes a problem?
Yeah, I think you'll see a little bit of that. And it is the interior, I think, the good call that I'm most concerned about for New Orleans. Now, obviously, the addition of Josh Sweat, somebody that Kellen Moore is very familiar with, obviously, from his Philadelphia year last year. But I do think you're looking at probably moving the pocket, RPOs, read options, all those types of things. But they got to get a run game going in order to really be able to take advantage of that. That's the other place where I think the offensive line is a really, really big part of this game. If you can establish that, then you get the easy buttons. But if you don't establish that run game and you can't keep the pressure off the quarterback, there are no easy buttons to save you.
Yeah, Spencer Rattler, I kind of see as Sam Howell from a couple years ago, where he had a couple spot starts, and then he ended up being the guy. I ended up beating the Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon's first game when Josh Dobbs was with the team for 15 minutes before starting. For me, like a big matchup for me is coaches. Nick Rowis versus Kellen Moore, the play caller, because it's going to be 41. Chris Olave is going to be involved. Juwan Johnson's one of the better pass catching tight ends in football. And then on the other side, you've got maybe not. He's been a fantasy.
No. I love that you said it. I just know that a lot of Saints fans don't agree with me, but that is exactly my take too. And I think he's going to be
give him the rest. He could be a Jimmy Graham light. Like, okay. And then, but the defense for Nick Rallis, keep week 1, 2025. You heard it here first, Saints fans. Nick Rallis will be on a short list for head coaching jobs if the Arizona Cardinals win 11 plus games. This dude is an absolute savant. Watch out for what I call the demon lineup, where the Cardinals lost Starling Thomas, cornerback, to an ACL in camp. They're going to play 3 safeties with Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, and second-year guy Dadrian Taylor Demerson out of Texas Tech. And you'll have Garrett Williams, either Will Johnson or Max Melton, complementing on the outside, complementing the front 7 the Cardinals have. That is the lineup that Nick Rallis, in my opinion, will be able to administer the most pain to opposing offenses. Like, that's going to be the lineup on full display that Kellen Moore is going to have to decipher, because they don't care
I love that.
what position they play. If you're good, they're going to take you and allow you to do what you do best, and only that with this defense. And that's why they've been able to have so much success with not that much talent.
Yeah, I think this is one of those games where if Kellen Moore can pull the rabbit out of the hat, a la Sean Payton years ago, to where it's like that third running back or that third wide receiver that actually ends up being a large part of the game plan, where they could maybe benefit from that. I don't know if you're going to be able to do that here, though, but I would watch out for one player that I'll mention here, and that's Velus Jones Jr. Velus Jones Jr., absolute, I'm going to borrow your word, speed demon over here on this offense. 4.31 speed. I think he's going to be a little bit more involved than people expect going into this game. If he is, it's just about trying to take advantage of the speed and trying to take advantage of a little bit of aggressiveness with those kind of 5-1 penny fronts that they love to play over in Arizona. You're wanting to get to the perimeter, get the speed guys working that way, get them away from all the clutter that can happen at the line of scrimmage. Are they going to be able to do that? I don't know, but I think you're going to start to see a little bit of that. Let me wrap this up here in terms of matchups with one matchup that I'm really looking forward to that became even more important on Wednesday. And that is Alontae Taylor, the slot corner or the star for this defense, and Kyler Murray. Alontae Taylor is a chaos creator. And so him rushing the passer and creating some of these tougher issues for a quarterback to read, where is he coming from? What's he going to do? All that. I think everything about that is really, really valuable for New Orleans and that defense, especially right now, while Chase Young is dealing with a calf injury, and we'll see how available he is on Sunday. I think that he ends up being a really important player on Sunday.
And it's fantastic for Kyler Murray to get as many looks as possible in the big picture of things. Luckily for the Cardinals, they've got a vaunted offensive line. They've got guys who can chip. Tip Ryman, 3rd-round pick out of Illinois, who's become their 6th offensive lineman. There's going to be plenty of protection with Tamari DeMarcado, James Conner, Trey Benson. They've got guys who can block oncoming blitzers in spades. The Cardinals are finally starting to get it, where they draft players who are good, and then, you play them
and play them at the position.
It's crazy
that
what happens.
Yeah.
It's crazy what happens. Instead of me playing center, things, but Alontae Taylor, he's obviously a name I pinned. It'll be fascinating to see the chess match between two teams in week 1 when nobody really knows what the hell is going on. Like, that's really week 1. Nobody knows what's going on. So it's a matter of mitigating risk and making less mistakes in the opposing team and scoring touchdowns instead of kicking field goals.
100%. All right, coming up next, we are going to dive into what it will take for each of these teams to win. And surprise, surprise, the ground game is going to be really important. We got that coming up for you next as we continue on with our crossover Thursday here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who follow what moves them every time that they drive. That's what makes a Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every single detail. Mazda offers more than just safety. In fact, they've won more 2025 IIHS Top Safety Plus awards than anyone else as of August of 2025. That's the kind of guarantee you want when you're loading yourself up or your family into a trusted Mazda vehicle. And just like an athlete focuses on every single detail, Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. Oh, it just doesn't get more luxurious than that. It's the small details that make the big plays. And just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals and Locked On Saints is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, the only sports book that I trust. The football season is almost here. I know you feel it. It's on the way. First game is kickoff tonight. There's a ton that you can get in on that. But of course, for the New Orleans Saints and the Arizona Cardinals this weekend, you got a big spread there. The New Orleans Saints, the largest home underdogs of the week right now, plus 6.5 with those Arizona Cardinals heavily favored. Maybe you like the Arizona Cardinals in this matchup. Maybe you like the Saints to cover. This is where FanDuel comes in because they're making sure that you're ready for kickoff with a can't miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 on their first bet. And if that bet wins, they get $300 in bonus bets. That's $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Doesn't get any better than that. Make sure you check out the live betting as well. One of my favorite features that they have. So are you ready to play? Well, FanDuel, all you got to do is download the FanDuel app by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5. Let's get everybody. We're wrapping up this crossover Thursday edition. Alex Clancy, Ross Jackson here. Get it all taken care of for you. Alex, the Arizona Cardinals win this football game if what?
They score more points than the Saints. Let's wrap it up, Ross.
All right, we're out of here.
they will score, or they will win. They will beat New Orleans on Sunday if they win the turnover battle, which is the cliche one. You got to win the turnover battle usually 100%. To win games. It really comes down to pressuring Spencer Rattler and containing Alvin Kamara. I joke about 41. The dude is an absolute terror. I have him on every single one of my fantasy football teams. Every single one. I don't care if he has 9 catches for 29 yards. The dude is going to be able to wreak havoc if given the opportunity. And with the defense, with a lot of dudes who haven't played together before, and a lot of second-year dudes and a lot of rookies, Alvin Kamara could shatter a game plan. So it's Alvin Kamara contain and pressuring the second-year quarterback, making his first start as the, de facto starting quarterback going into a new season.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the run game is big for New Orleans as well. If you get Alvin Kamara going, it takes a lot of pressure off of that young quarterback, Spencer Rattler, and then you get an opportunity to kind of get him in a little bit of a rhythm based off of that. So it all comes down to the run game for New Orleans, and therefore I agree, stopping the run game for Arizona. Over on the Saints side, the New Orleans Saints win if, see, I did it too. The New Orleans Saints win if they magically have a run defense, which they did not have for very much of last year. They finished 31st in the NFL in rushing yards last year. And last year's version of the Arizona Cardinals were top 5 in the NFL, or at least top 10 in the NFL, when it came to 15-plus yard rushes on the season, top 10 in 20-plus yard rushes as well. And New Orleans has a propensity to give up a lot of explosive plays. So that's got to be a big part of what it is that they do here. And that run game is not just about James Conner for the New Orleans Saints, though obviously he is a big one to watch, but it's also about Kyler Murray. The New Orleans Saints struggle and have struggled and might continue to struggle, we'll see, up against mobile quarterbacks. And they have an early test with a brand new defensive scheme and a brand new defensive play caller here on Sunday up against Arizona.
Yeah, it's gonna be fascinating. I've been a proponent of Trey Benson getting 10% more looks as well. So it's not also going to be James Conner and Kyler Murray. Trey Benson, third round pick out of Florida State, who's an absolute, he was a ridiculous football player, running back last year at Florida State. I'm starting to see, I call it a solar eclipse, Ross, where an older player goes one way and the young player in the same position, they start to cross over. Like it's not all the way there. It's not even close to the way there. The sun and the moon aren't touching yet. But 2025 is hopefully would become the year where you start to see Trey Benson as RB1 and you start to see James Conner as in the LeGarrette Blount role moving forward, which is what I've wanted for him for years. Important touches whatsoever. With this offense, they have a lot to prove. This could be a situation where the Saints are the guinea pig for all of the built-up aggression the Arizona Cardinals have on offense, where all they've heard all offseason is, it ain't good enough, it ain't good enough, it ain't good enough, why are you running it back? This could be the time where they unleash. And, good luck, because they'll run the ball 45 times if they're not being stopped.
Yeah, and look, the Saints kind of have that same idea too, right? They've been told over and over again all offseason that they haven't done enough to change and that there's not enough new especially over on the defensive side of the football. But, they get to come in and maybe take some of that aggression out as well. So with these two teams looking to become the aggressor, I think the Saints are in that same boat. How do you see this game playing out? What's your prediction?
I think it's going to be higher scoring than expected. I think the Cardinals are going to win 27-17, something like that.
Okay.
Kind of take an earlier lead and coast, maybe give up a late touchdown. This is not bravado or expectation of victory by any stretch. Let's get it right. Like this is the defense will lead the way and the offense will take the opportunities given to them, maybe on short fields, maybe on 3 and outs, being able to, compound the issue with the defense that just got on the field, off the field, that has to go back on after a failed 3 and out series by the Saints. 27-17, cover, win comfortably.
Yeah, like it. I have the Cardinals winning as well, but I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints to cover. I think this is like a 19-24 game, and the Saints show some, good things, right? They stay competitive. They keep this game closer than expected, and maybe even put together a couple of late drives, like maybe the touchdown in there comes later on in the game, and you just kind of see the confidence begin to build. I think success looks different for New Orleans this year. It's not about the win-loss record for them. It's about developing, growing, and trending in the right direction over the course of the regular season. Something I'm sure you're familiar with in watching the Cardinals kind of grow out of where they once were.
Well, and that's the thing. This is all about wins and losses for the Cardinals. It's the antithesis. Doesn't matter about Kyler Murray's numbers. It doesn't matter about anybody's numbers, Marvin's numbers. Doesn't matter. Wins and losses is it. So if the Cardinals start 1-0, I don't care if the Saints forfeit and the Cardinals win 2-0. Win is the same as a win if they score 100 points or if they score 3. So it'll be fascinating to see two teams going in different trajectories, match up. And one last thing before we go, I'm a Spencer Rattler fan. I remember he got Wally pipped at Oklahoma, and then he had no shot elsewhere. And I think the dude has got a good enough arm. He's smart enough. He's mobile enough to be able to have a 10-year career in the NFL. I don't see him as a patsy by any stretch.
Absolutely. We'll see how it all goes. Both of these teams looking for a win here in the opening week. Alex Clancy, you can find him over at Locked On Cardinals. Another episode coming up for you over there tomorrow. Same thing over at Locked On Saints. Make sure you come and check us out as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.